Hi everybody, and welcome back to The Diligent Doc. I am super excited that you're joining me for another video. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about something that is a little bit specific to medical students or doctors, but the tips in this video can be applied to any type of student or any type of career choice that involves a lot of academia and studying. So I hope that you'll find this video valuable, and I'd love to hear in the comments below at the end of this video what your thoughts are, or if you have anything else to add to my tips. Everything that I'm about to talk about really hinges on the concept of delayed gratification. So delayed gratification is defined as the ability to resist an immediate reward in order to wait for a bigger reward down the road or in the future. So this might seem very obvious to those who have experienced having to wait for gratification in their lives and their careers. You know, not everything is just handed to you immediately. You have to work for a lot of the things that you want in life, right? So I think one of the biggest lessons I had to learn as a student, even pre-med in college, or maybe especially in college when you're trying to get into a competitive field and competing against many other very smart and talented individuals, many of whom who are much better test takers than I was and much smarter than I was in the sciences, is that while you are watching your friends go out, have fun, enjoy themselves, go to parties, you know, maybe skip class, right? Those are things that you really cannot do for yourself if your goal is something that's very highly driven, highly motivated, and goal-oriented. So in my situation, and many of you probably watching understand this, if you yourself are in pre-med or undergrad just trying to go for some kind of higher level of education or a doctorate, that you do have to have a significant level of discipline when it comes to saying, I'm not going to do that right now with these people, or I'm not going to focus on this thing that everyone else is focused on, but rather this is what I need to focus on, and it involves books and studying, right? There were many a time when I would be spending hours in the library on a Friday night, on a Saturday night, trying to study for tests, science exams, right? You know that those are difficult, and my friends are out having fun. That's not to say that I never had fun in college or enjoyed myself. I certainly did have a lot of fun, but it wasn't to the point where I could say, I'm gonna blow this off to go and enjoy myself, right? You have to set a limit to when that's appropriate and when it's not appropriate. That's one thing that really helped me be successful in my career, is knowing that there are sacrifices I have to make in this moment and for years to come where I won't be able to do the things I want to do. Not to mention I won't be earning what I want to earn right out of college or in my mid-20s or even late 20s, right? Because during that time, you're going from pre-med in college, which is 4 years, to medical school, which is another 4 years, and then you are having to go into medical training, which is at least another 3 years. So that is a good 11 years where you are not earning income. You are actually going into deeper and deeper debt, like most medical students, if you have to take out student loans for your education. I was one of those people, right? So you know that you're in this for the long haul, and so you have to be comfortable with saying no to things that you would rather be doing in order to focus on the here and now, and try your best to focus on school and academics and doing the best you can during that path. I have to say that one of the most challenging things that I didn't ever really think about until I experienced it was the fact that those decisions are going to affect certain personal relationships, right? It might be a friendship, it might be another relationship, it might even be a family member that is not going to appreciate or understand how much your time and focus has to be on this goal. You know, you're not going to school to enter a job that doesn't affect other people. You're going to school to learn how to care for other human beings and to try to heal them and make them better in most cases, right? So you really have to have a reverence for the fact that you can't do that and please everybody at the same time. There are some people who are going to fall out of your life, possibly fully, because they just cannot understand that at that moment, and that's okay. That's life in general, right? Then there's going to be the people who are your diehards, who are going to be sticking by you through the whole thing, as hard as it is for them and for you. It's definitely easier when other people have gone through the same thing, so they understand what you're going through, but most of the people around you are simply not going to understand. So knowing that you are on this path, and sometimes that's going to mean people will fall out of the way, and they may come back later or they may not. But that was one of the most challenging aspects of going through medical school and medical training, that I didn't know would happen until it actually happened, right? So the next thing that has to do with delayed gratification as you're trying to reach your academic goals and your career goals is that it really teaches you a lot about staying disciplined in many aspects of your life. Obviously, my channel is called The Diligent Doc. I'm very much into leading a disciplined and diligent lifestyle. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. I'm not the type of person who's out there. I'm not a David Goggins, okay, if you want to put it that way. I'm definitely not a David Goggins, but I do find significant value in portraying discipline and diligence in multiple areas of your life, not just in the 4 or 8 years that you're in school and then you do what you want after that and it falls to the wayside. No, you want to try to carry on and build on it as you proceed in life, right? And so I find that having the discipline to study and go to class and take exams and say no to things you'd rather be doing, that all builds up your internal discipline and your internal drive that then bleeds into other aspects of your life. So for me personally, I find that it really affected how I approach my nutrition, how I approach my sleep, how I approach exercise, how I approach the time and the quality of the time that I spend with the people I love and want to be around. You take inventory of who is important, who's not important, what is helping me thrive, and how can I help others thrive. And you really are able to hone in on those more easily than I think a lot of other people can do when they're kind of just pursuing other things in life that aren't so much focused on their drive to become better human beings, if you will. So I feel that the discipline I have learned from being in school, even though it definitely was not even or in a straight path, it has really, in my older years, in more recent years, helped me a lot in focusing in on what's important again and trying to live each day with that same level of discipline and diligence that is required to get through such rigorous schooling and training. So not only is delayed gratification important for all the things I just mentioned, it also is very helpful in that it makes you understand how to deal with money very much, right? So like I said, when you're in medical school, when you're in pre-med, you are not making any money, you're not earning money, you are going into debt. That debt is rapidly accumulating because unfortunately in the United States, we have something called compounded interest, which is a horrible concept, but it's reality. So the minute you start accruing student loans, they start accruing interest, and you are letting that build for years and years, maybe a decade or longer, right, before you start paying it off. And so knowing that you're gonna come out of residency or even medical school, if you start paying your loans off earlier, you're going to come out of that with a significant burden of debt. I'm talking at least several $100,000. So delayed gratification, which you've already had a lot of practice with, is going to help you with focusing on tailoring down your expenses and purchases so that you can focus on paying those student loans off. Now, some people might opt for something like student loan forgiveness programs and things of that nature, which is amazing. I'm all for it. I actually did that for a few years, but because I had job changes, I fell out of the requirements of that program. So I had to just go ahead and pay off the balance. And that took years. It took many years to do that, but it took a lot of self-discipline to say, okay, I'm not going to necessarily purchase this giant big ticket item when I can put that money towards my student loans, right? Obviously, we did buy a house, we have bought different cars, but none of those were at the expense of, okay, well, I'm also not gonna pay my loans off. I was trying to pay it off in a quicker manner. I didn't want to pay it off over 20 or 30 years because I knew that interest was just going to keep compounding. So anytime we would get some kind of bonus or some kind of chunk of cash, or in many cases, I did a lot of moonlighting. So I would do extra work on top of my regular job, and that money went towards something like, if I didn't need it for some other expense, I would put it towards student loans. The thing that actually helped, and maybe the only one thing that I'm happy about from the pandemic, was the fact that they froze student interest. And I'm not savvy enough in economics or any of that to know how that affects the economy. And I don't honestly care, because I don't think it's ethical to put compounding interest on student loan debt. I mean, that's just really digging students into a hole. But that's another topic for another day. So in the 2 years, I think it was 2 years where they froze interest building up on student loans, it was 0% for that much time. So it wasn't accruing during that time. So during those 2 years, we were slamming as much as we could towards that student loan debt. I was able to pay off my student loans, and then my husband, we paid off his student loans. So we are officially student loan debt free, which is such a feeling I cannot even tell you. So if you are a med student or in residency, or even newly out of residency, or maybe you're 10 years out of residency, I don't care. If you still have student loan debt, I urge you to really look at all of the things that you are spending money on otherwise, and figure out the big ticket items that you can cut out and funnel that money into the student loans instead. You will thank yourself tenfold, once those student loans are done and over with, and you're not tied to that burden anymore. The other way that student loans affects your life is that if you decide you hate your job and you want to quit, well, you have a non-compete probably with your physician job, which limits you from working somewhere else in a certain vicinity from where you currently work. It's usually like a mile radius or whatever number of miles around your primary location. It could be that same number of miles around every location in the healthcare system that you work for. So that can cover a big space and a big area. And the non-compete is usually at least 1 year, if not 2 or more. So that limits you from earning potential if you decide you hate your job, and you might feel trapped in your current job because you have student loans to pay off, and it is a huge burden to uproot and move to a different area or a different state. I've been there, I've done it twice. One was to pursue fellowship, which was a good choice, but part of it was also to do with, well, I have a non-compete. I can't go and work for another company, another healthcare entity in my same state, because they were so large that it wouldn't have worked. So just keep those things in mind when you are thinking about student loans. It's not just the debt that's held over you, it's the limiting of your freedom, because you may be trapped in a job that you hate for years on end, simply because you don't really have a good choice other than to uproot your whole life and go to a different state. If you have children, that's going to be much harder to do later on in life. So I would urge you to really look at, okay, how much money do I have left to pay off of my loans, and figure out an action plan to say, I'm going to save this much every month, and then throw that fully at the loans. The lower your balance gets, the less that interest gets over time. So I urge you to do that. We delayed a lot of gratification while we were paying off those loans. Not to say we didn't have fun too. We did go on trips and do this and that, because you need some things for sanity. But we weren't frivolous about how we spent our money, so that we could funnel so much into the loans, right? Okay, and to knock those out. The next way that delayed gratification is helpful in life outside of career, I would say, and outside of school, is that it really helps you, and I alluded to this before, but it really helps you focus on the quality relationships that you want to have and hold on to. When you are saying no to certain people or certain events or activities, the ones that really want to stick with you are going to stick with you. So I have had experiences where, I had a really, really deep friendship with somebody in college, but it fell apart because as I was going through medical school, she didn't understand the time constraints that I had, and I couldn't focus as much time spent with her versus what I needed to do for medical school. I was doing rotations, getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, getting home late in the evenings, then studying, and then eating and sleeping and repeating, and that is your life for months and years on end. So when you are able to delay gratification and say, I'm going to skip out on this, the people who get it are going to get it. They're going to stick by you. They're going to be there for you. And that really helps you hone in on who are those quality relationships that you want to hang on to, right? And that is worth a lot more than your salary, honestly, to know who those people are going to be. So I'm very thankful for that experience. And the last thing I will say about delayed gratification is that it's really like an endurance sport or endurance exercise. And I've linked these two in my brain forever because I love endurance exercise, and it makes you, in fact, this morning I did an endurance cycling ride. And even though I know it's good for me, it's hard for me at the same time mentally, because I have to focus on staying within a certain range. I can't be too low with my heart rate. I can't be too high with my heart rate. I have to stay within a certain zone where, I don't feel like I'm working that hard, or this isn't as tough as I might want it to be, but it's not easy, but I have to stick to it, right? And that is what we call endurance, that you carry that on for a long, long time. So you're kind of at a constant level of discomfort when you are going through med school and residency. It's a big level of discomfort because it's hard work. It is not fun most of the time. It's grueling, you're sleep deprived, your nutrition is off. You're not going out and doing the things that you'd rather be doing. You're not earning as much money as other people are at that stage in their life. So being able to keep focused in that narrow tract for a long time builds your mental and emotional resilience. I find that I tend not to get upset by little things all the time because I know that it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, right? If it's something silly or something minor, those are the outliers, Think of those as on the outliers of your path. And the longer you could stay on that path and keep moving forward and keep focused, and you're at that slight level of discomfort and churning onward, things are going to work the way they're going to work. They're going to work out, and you just have to trust the process, and you're getting stronger and better for it each day. So I hope this video was helpful for you in thinking about delayed gratification in new ways. If you're a med student or if you're thinking about going into medical school, know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Yes, there are still many, many challenges and difficulties, especially having gone through a pandemic as a palliative care doctor or any doctor. It was very hard, and those things are unpredictable. Even without a pandemic, medicine is a moving target. No day is alike, right? Every day is different, and that's part of the appeal of it for me too. So if it's something that you're passionate about, you want to do this career, not for the money, because I'll tell you right now, there are quicker and faster ways to make money if that is your goal. So if your goal is to help people and help heal people, or in my case, I'm not necessarily healing them physically because I work in palliative care, but the healing comes in other ways, then you have to have that motivation because that's your passion to go through this grueling process, and know that the delayed gratification will pay dividends in many aspects of your life. So if you found this video helpful or valuable, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please hit subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.